Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. I'm enjoying reading a book published in paperback in 2019, hardback, I think, in 2017, entitled Resurrection of the Dead in Early Judaism, 200 BCE to CE 200 by CD Elledge. He has some very, very insightful things to say that kind of goes against the grain of an awful lot of people who claim to have all the answers on resurrection. Anyway, welcome back. We are examining the language of the Olivet Discourse, Matthew 24, verse 29 and following, where Jesus, in describing the time of the abomination of desolation, the great tribulation, and he said, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will be turned to blood, the stars of heaven shall not give their light, the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And I've shared with you that we have one of two choices here. The language is either literal, speaking of the end of the cosmos, physically, materially, or it's metaphoric. Obviously, I take the latter view. And the reason I take the latter view is because that kind of language is typical Hebraic, apocalyptic, metaphoric, hyperbolic language. Now, if that's not a mouthful for you, I don't know what it is. But apocalyptic language sounds like the destruction of heaven and earth. Metaphoric means non-literal, obviously. Hyperbolic means exaggerated. This was the typical Hebraic expressions or way to express the judgment of any people, city, kingdom, nation. And I've been sharing that with you from several Old Testament prophecies and passages. I've spent a couple of times now on Isaiah chapter 34. In Isaiah chapter 34, the prophet foretold the destruction of, quote, all the nations and Edom. And one of my detractors said that I was, naturally, a false teacher and heretic because the language here, watch the language. The indignation of the Lord is against all nations, his fury against all their armies. He has utterly destroyed them. He has given them over to the slaughter. Also their slain shall be thrown out. Their stench shall rise from their corpses. All the mountains will be melted with blood. All the host of heaven shall be dissolved. Heaven shall be rolled up like a scroll. All their host shall fall down as the leaf falls from the vine and as the fruit falling from a fig tree. So, this individual said, by the way, he's a former preterist, he says this language is to be taken literally. Well, first of all, we have to decide, well, okay, is the material cosmos, is it going to be rolled up like a scroll? Or is it going to be dissolved? I mean, there are two different forms of destruction here. Are both of them literal? Or is it going to be rolled up like a scroll and then dissolved? Because after all, you can't really dissolve it and then roll it up like a scroll, right? So anyway, when he challenged me on Facebook, I said, how do you determine that Isaiah chapter 34 is talking about both the destruction of Edom, which he admitted to in verse 5 and following, and the destruction of all the nations at the end of time? How do you prove that? His response was, well, because in verses 1 to 4, it refers to all the nations. My response to that was this. Number one, that ignores the contextual flow of the text. I pointed out to him that in the text of Isaiah 34, we have the connective particle translated as into for, used 3 or 4 times. Notice this. Come near, you nations, and hear. Heed, you people, let the earth hear and all that is in it, the world and all things that come forth from it, for the indignation of the Lord is against all nations. Now, would this respondent deny that the word for connects verse 2 with verse 1? Obviously not. No, he wouldn't deny that. Well, okay. Well, verse 3 doesn't use the word for, but it continues, continues the discussion by saying also. So here's what's going to happen, and also here's what's going to happen. But watch. I'm going to read verse 4 again. All the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, the heavens shall be rolled up like a scroll, all their hosts shall fall down, as the leaf falls from the vine, and as the fruit falling from a fig tree. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven, indeed it shall come down on Edom. I'm going to destroy the heaven because my sword is going to come down on Edom. Now, God wasn't saying here, I'm going to ultimately destroy the literal physical heaven and earth because I'm destroying Edom. No. That connective particle is demanding that verse 5 is part of the discussion of verse 1 to 4. Not only that, verse 6, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood. Wait a minute. The sword of the Lord. The sword of the Lord is for the destruction of Edom. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made overflowing with fatness, with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord has a sacrifice in Bozrah, a great slaughter in the land of Egypt. Do you see how this connective particle, for, connects the text? You can't take Jehoiakim's penknife and just go slicing and dicing in the text and say, well, it uses the word nations. That's got to mean the end of time. The word for connects the destruction of the nations with the destruction of Edom. Verse 8, for, now that follows the destruction of Edom, connects the destruction of Edom with what he's about to say. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, their year of recompense for the cause of Zion. Do you see that? In other words, in order to get his futurism into the text, this gentleman has to literally ignore the grammar of the text. Or he has to pervert the grammar, of the text. You cannot honor the connective particle translated as for in the text and exclude the destruction of the nations from the time of the destruction of Edom. Now, has Edom been destroyed? Pardon me. Wow. Has Edom been destroyed? I'm not going to answer that yet. You can do your homework. You'll find the answer very, very easily. But here's the point. Since the destruction of the nations is connected to the destruction of Edom, then if Edom has been destroyed, the nations have been destroyed. So what I'm going to do in tomorrow's video, my goodness gracious, I do apologize. What I'm going to do in tomorrow's video is I'm going to show you that Isaiah 34 was fulfilled in the time and by Nebuchadnezzar. In the meantime, your homework is to read Jeremiah 25, whole chapter. Your homework is to read Ezekiel 25. And just see if you can't find some connection with Isaiah 34. Now, here's a hint and a clue. From the time of the writing of Isaiah 34 until the time of Jeremiah 25, until the time of Ezekiel 25, Edom was not destroyed. Nope, not destroyed. Now, by the way, let me make this quick observation. Isaiah 34 doesn't say, the day of the Lord against Edom is at hand. It does not say, the day of the Lord against Edom is coming quickly and shortly and soon. It doesn't say that. Oh, but wait. We've got more to see on that. We'll see that on the flip side. But in the meantime, hey, this month is almost over. Don't forget, take advantage of my 3-book special for here January 2020. The elements shall melt with fervent heat. Like Father, like Son, on clouds of glory. Have heaven and earth passed away. U.S. orders only. These books, all 3 of them together, if you purchase them separately, would cost you over $60. For the rest of this month, January 2020, U.S. orders only, $40 total delivered price. And again, for those of you who are not in the U.S., if you would like to purchase a PDF at greatly reduced prices, then contact me and I'll tell you how to do that. Save you even more money, and you'll appreciate that. All right? So, don't forget, tomorrow, read Jeremiah 25, read Ezekiel chapter 25, and ask yourself the question what it has to do with the destruction, number 1, of the nations, number 2, of Edom. You'll be amazed. I'll see you on the flip side.